Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. This entire course is presented by Jeremy Burns, and Jeremy asked me to do a special favor. He asked me to reveal to everyone out there, all of his customers, how I make my living. And this is not internet marketing directly. Granted, it is somewhat related, but it's not your typical kind of internet marketing. I make my money on the internet. I make my money online. And I make between $6,000 and $10,000 a month. Now, I'm going to give you a disclosure right now. Just because you do what I do, that's not a guarantee that you're going to make, $6,000 to $10,000 a month. I've been doing this for quite a while. There's a lot of opportunities here, but let me tell you what it is that I do and what this course is going to cover. I create video-based training. I create audio clips. I create video-based promotional clips. And I do all of this with a series of tools, and I have some things that I do in order to streamline my process. And that's what I'm going to share with you in this video course. The video that you're watching right now, this is a little bit more elaborate than I normally do for a training video, but since this is all about video, I figured I would go ahead and do something a little bit, above the norm. But what we're going to talk about in this course is the opportunities that are available. We're going to talk about the programs that you need to know how to use, the kind of equipment that you're going to need to have. I'm not going to be training you on the specific programs because there are so many of them. Literally, you would have a minimum 4-hour course for each one of them. And again, there's several, almost, I think around a dozen applications that I'm going to be sharing with you. We're going to look at how to find clients. I'm going to take you through the whole process, where to look for them, how to communicate with them, how to structure your pricing, how to figure out how much something is worth and what you should start charging. Of course, you don't charge the maximum right away because you're new at it and you're going to need some experience. But I'm going to show you how to work things up. As a matter of fact, let me just go ahead and give you some information right now. The very first video training that I did was years ago on Photoshop 7, I believe it was. I did 4 hours of training for $360. Now, that's laughable for me today because I did not know what was really in store. And that's kind of what I want to help you out with. To create 1 hour of training, it's a little bit more than an hour, more like 8 to 10 hours. We'll talk about that later on towards the end of the course. But nowadays, I did 4 hours then for $360. Nowadays, I charge up to $1,200 per hour. And that's on applications that I know about. And I don't have to do any research. So that kind of puts things in perspective. I'm also going to share with you my project workflow. That would include how to schedule things, how to plan things out, how to go about getting your script approved if you have to work with scripts. We'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about ways to deliver the content, different formats, what works, what's the most popular, what's the most compatible. And then I'm going to actually show you, we're going to do like a time-lapsed type of project where you can see me working on something and kind of know, we go from step A to step B and step C, etc. And then we'll talk a little bit about the niches that are available, how you can diversify, basically areas that you can get into. There's a lot of different things you can do with media, and it's a very booming business today. So we'll talk about that, and then I've got some resources for you where you can, tools that you'll be able to use in your everyday life doing media work. Some samples that I want to show you, and if you want to go ahead and get some further training on the applications, which I do recommend, we'll also talk about that. Okay, so in the next video, we'll go ahead and get started with programs and equipment. This is going to be somewhat of a crash course, and I'm not going to waste a lot of your time with chit-chat. It's going to be raw information, things that you need to know to actually do this. And like I said in the introduction, this is not your regular, internet marketing kind of stuff. It's not get rich quick. It is, if you want to actually do something, some work, and not that internet marketing is not work, it definitely is work. But if you want to actually create stuff, a while ago I had the opportunity to do a lot of internet marketing. I work with a lot of internet marketers, and if I wanted to, I could cut away and do a lot of that kind of stuff myself. But I really enjoy creating actual content. And as a matter of fact, Jeremy and I are going to do a little bit of working together because Jeremy is a fantastic internet marketer. So he enjoys doing that aspect of it. Well, I enjoy doing this aspect of it. And if you want to make money online, you don't have to do it with internet marketing. You can do it by doing what I do, working with media, audio and video. To get started, you're going to have some basic equipment, and we'll just deal with the equipment first here. Depending on exactly what you're doing, that's going to determine the kind of equipment that you're going to need. But I'm going to list for you some basics. As far as audio is concerned, we'll kind of go through my studio a little bit, but some of this stuff, it's just optional depending on what you're going to do. For audio work, you need a large diaphragm condenser microphone. You can get these with powered by USB. In other words, it's just a microphone. It's a USB mic. You plug it into your computer, and you're ready to go. I prefer to process a lot of my audio in line, meaning I do some things with the sound. So in order to do that, I have to have a regular audio microphone. Now, you can get this kind of stuff for anywhere between $100 and $200 for a low-end mic, all the way up to several $1,000s for a high-end mic. I'm not going to make you, I'm a pretty hardened audio buff, but I'm not going to preach to you about everything that you've got to do, because that would be, literally probably a 10-hour course if we did that. But you're going to need a microphone. Then you're going to go from the cable of the mic to a USB or a FireWire audio capture card. You might think, just go to Walmart, get a $10 microphone, plug it into the PC sound card, and you're ready to go. Well, if you do that, you're going to end up making stuff that sounds pretty junky. Now, while as an internet marketer, you might be able to get away with doing, a testimonial or something like that, recording audio that way. But if you're going to do media as your business, then you've got to have good quality. You're not going to be able to sell that kind of stuff to people. Okay, so it's a little bit of an investment. The audio capture device will be maybe $100 to $300 for what'll handle your microphone, just a single microphone, possibly handling 2 microphones. You'll also want to get some type of audio processing. This would be some kind of device that has a compressor built in, an equalizer, possibly a downward expander, and even a de-esser. Now, again, I'm not going to explain what all of that stuff is. In the resources section at the end of this course, I'm going to have a place that you can go and you can find out a whole lot more about that kind of stuff. Okay, but this is just more of an overview. That's the audio equipment itself from a hardware standpoint. Now let's take a look at the programs that you're going to have to need to know how to use. And this, again, a lot of these are optional. These are the programs that I use in and out every single day. That does not mean there's not a replacement out there. I'll be mentioning some of these. There actually is an application in here that I don't personally use, but I'll be mentioning what those are and where they come into play. The first thing is the basic video editor, and this is critical if you're going to be creating videos. You can't just record a clip and then pop it up there. Not if you're creating content that needs to be professional. So here's the applications that I use. Adobe Premiere Pro, and again, we're talking about video editors here. Let me mention real quick. A video editor allows you to have multiple tracks of video. You can place different elements on those tracks. You can add transitions. You can do cuts, fades, resize the video, and produce the video in a variety of different formats. That's what a video editor does. Not to mention you can mix in audio and do all kinds of stuff. This entire video, again, that you're watching, the entire course is put together inside of Sony Vegas Pro 8, and that's another video editor, one that I tend to use more. I used Adobe Premiere Pro for a long time, but once I found Sony Vegas Pro, it kind of replaced it pretty quick because I like the way that it works. Now, on the Macintosh side, a very popular video editor is Final Cut Pro. And incidentally, Macs are great for doing video and audio work. I have a PC and I have a Macintosh. I tend to stay on the PC just because of familiarity. The Mac, and this is by no means an offense to Mac users, the Mac stays in my other room, and my wife uses it for email mostly. I got it, though, because I wanted to try out Final Cut Pro and see how that worked and see if it was actually a whole lot better. Again, I still use my PC with Sony Vegas Pro today. It used to be that Macs and PCs, there was kind of a war, and the Mac usually won when it came to audio and video. Today, they're pretty comparable, though. Now, as far as audio itself, I use Adobe Audition. In fact, I am recording the audio that you're listening to right now in Adobe Audition. And I'm actually doing this. There's a bunch of different ways to create a video like what you're watching. You can create your content first, create your slides if you're doing it in PowerPoint, and then narrate it. But what I'm doing in this particular case, because I like the effects and the different, I wanted to, make it a little bit more spiced up. What I'm doing is recording the entire audio clip first. Now, I want you to take the visuals and I want you to take the quality and all that stuff into consideration. But I will say to you that from a professional standpoint, this is not the most professional production, and here's why. I am kind of shooting off from the hip on this. I'm sitting down and I'm going to just tell you my thoughts. I've got an outline laid out, and I'm going to show you all about that later on. We're going to talk about process and workflow and stuff. I've got a rough outline, but I'm kind of just talking to you from experience. I'm recording that in Adobe Audition, again, just the audio. And then what I'm going to do is bring that into Sony Vegas. I'll bring that audio in, and I'll start to throw in my graphics. I'll start to throw in my text and bullet points. I'm going to synchronize that up with the audio. So the beauty of this is if I happen to be thinking of something spontaneously, and I say it, then I can go ahead and throw in the video for it after the fact. Again, this is just one technique. If I was doing this for, let's say, a training, a full bore training or a professional promotional clip, I would actually have a script and I would want to follow that along. I would edit out any ums or ahs or anything like that I said. But in this case, again, I'm just shooting from the hip. So we've got Adobe Audition. What we do is with all these applications, a lot of times through my workflows, I'm bouncing in and out from one to the other. A lot of times I have several open at once. I might work on some video, and then if I've got some audio that I need to play with, I might port something over to Audition, play with it there, and bring it back. Now, Sony Vegas Pro and Adobe Premiere and Final Cut Pro, they all deal with audio. But they're primarily video programs. Because I know you're asking, why do I got to have all these programs? Audition gears itself specifically towards audio. So that means it has a lot of really good features designed specifically for audio. Some people can do everything that they need to do inside of Sony Vegas Pro. It depends on how complex you get. A lot of people using maybe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, they get by just fine. It's just that I know how to use Audition, and I have it because I happen to be a musician, and it does really good with multi-track recording and mixing and all that kind of stuff. So what happens is maybe when I'm in Premiere or I'm in Sony Vegas Pro, I have something that I need to do, and the tools inside of Audition, I already know about them, and I know that they can do a better job maybe than what's in Vegas. So I take that audio over to Audition and I work on it there. Okay, so that takes care of the audio and video editing for the most part. Another thing that I use extensively is Photoshop. That's another Adobe product. That's used to create custom graphics. What you're looking at on the screen right now is a custom graphic that was created inside of Photoshop. The reason that you're going to be creating stuff like this is for backgrounds, or maybe for little things that pop up on the screen, logos, all kinds of things that you'll be creating. And yes, I will mention, this is a good point to illustrate this because Photoshop is pretty expensive. There are alternatives that are free or really close to free with all of these applications. So go out there. I might even put at the end in the resources section, I might even put some links to some free alternative applications. But what we're dealing with here is industry standards. These are the things that pretty much everybody uses if you're serious and you're making money. What's going to happen is if you were to go out and start actually bidding on jobs and getting clients and making money, you're going to find that the free applications are free, usually for a reason. So you want to be working with the best. Now, a typical scenario, in fact, what I do probably 90% of the time, is a presentation in PowerPoint. That's a Microsoft product. PowerPoint is one of those applications. It's the world's most popular presentation graphic program. But what it does is let you make slides and put bullet points on and images and all that kind of stuff. You've all seen these types of presentations. You go to a seminar, they put on a PowerPoint presentation. Sometimes they're pretty lame. Sometimes they can be interesting. But that's the software that's used. You need to know how to use it pretty good, and that comes fairly quick. It's not a very complex application, and it does a pretty good job. Something that goes along with PowerPoint, if you want to kind of step things up, this is an insider tip. A lot of people don't know about this because Adobe bought a company a while ago that created a fantastic product for PowerPoint. But they kind of put it on the back burner and they haven't really done much with it. So this particular application kind of died out of favor. But it's called Ovation. And it is fantastic. If you want to take your regular mundane PowerPoint presentation and turn it into something phenomenal without a lot of work, Ovation is the one. And again, Adobe actually has it. If you go to their site, you can do a search for Ovation and you'll find it. You still can purchase it. I will warn you, though, it does not work on Vista and it does not work with PowerPoint 2007. In fact, if you even have Office 2007 installed on that computer, it won't work. It'll mess it up. So we're looking at, I think, Office 2000 to 2003. Anything in there, it'll work fine. Okay, now, another way to get things a little bit fancier is with effects and animations and 3D and stuff like that. That's done with a couple of applications, both Adobe products now. Adobe bought Macromedia, by the way, several years ago, and they acquired a lot of applications that are geared towards this. One of them, though, and the most popular by far, is Flash. You want to know how to use Flash for a ton of different things. Flash allows you to do some pretty interesting animations pretty simply. It also allows you to do some customization, and you want to know Flash because a lot of the content that you're going to create will be delivered in Flash. That means it's going to be played in a Flash player. You want to know how to be able to customize those players. You want to know a little bit about how Flash works. Another thing, if you want to get real elaborate, is Adobe After Effects. Again, another Adobe product here. But After Effects, again, the industry standard. If you want to do animations, if you want to do short little clips that just, you can do the lighting, you can do the 3D stuff, you can move stuff around in 3D space. You can make things look really nice. It's got a ton of plugins available, a lot of neat stuff with After Effects. But like I said before, with all these applications, you're looking at 4, 6, 8 hours of a video course just on that application to learn how to use it. So when I'm done here summarizing all of these video clips, I'm going to tell you the key things, the most important ones that you need to start with, and then you can work up from there. Another one that's a really good to know and have is Camtasia Studio. And I told you we were going to go kind of fast paced, right? This is crammed full of information. Jeremy said, Ken, my customers are busy. I don't want any of their time wasted. I want them to get a whole bunch of content. And that's what we're trying to do. Camtasia Studio allows you to capture your desktop or just an application that you're using, just an area on your desktop, anything you want basically, and it will record that, and it'll record your voice at the same time. Camtasia is an extremely powerful and popular program. Lots of people use it. In fact, later on, when I show you how to find work, Camtasia is going to be one of your keywords to look for. It's that popular. People actually use it when they list jobs, when they post jobs that they need done. Another thing that we're going to want is a way to deliver the content once we have created it. And by far, that means FTP, because you're not going to be able to email most of the stuff that you do because it's going to be too big. And it's usually cost prohibitive to next day stuff, although, I do have to do that on occasion. I even had a very large video job that I had to do where it was well over 30 hours of training. And I had 3 500 gig external drives, Seagate drives. And what we would do is I would take the first one, I would fill it with content, I would ship it out, and then I would be working on the next batch, and I would fill that one up. And then after they received the other one, they would copy the stuff, they would ship it to me. So there was pretty much always one en route and one at the 2 different locations. So we were constantly doing a cycle there. But again, that can be kind of cost prohibitive, especially for smaller projects. So FTP is where that comes into play. The program that I'm going to show you, there are several, but the one that I'm going to recommend to you is SmartFTP. Again, the download link, all of these programs, I will show you where to get trials to them. I'll show you where to download them, and usually that's the same place that you purchase them from. So SmartFTP is the FTP client. It allows you to connect to a server and then upload whatever kind of data you have to that server. Then you will give your client a link later on, and they'll be able to download it. Or you can even give them FTP access. Sometimes they will have an FTP server, and they'll give you a username and password, and then you'll have to connect and upload your work that way. But that's how it's done with an FTP client. This last 2 that I'm going to mention here are more like utilities, kind of. They work with other programs. One is Prodad Hieroglyph, and it is a phenomenal tool. As a matter of fact, all the fancy text that you've seen in this video, done with Prodad Hieroglyph. It allows you, it plugs into Adobe Premiere, it plugs into Sony Vegas Pro, and a number of other applications. But it allows you to take text and spruce it up, animate it, make it look better than just a simple fade. Okay, and some of the other lame things that PowerPoint presentations typically have. So there's Prodad. The last thing I'm going to mention right now, I may throw in some others later on if I think of them. So that's a disclaimer too. But the last one I'm going to mention right now is Prism Video Converter. This is an application, one of many that is on the website. And again, the link's going to be at the end of the videos. It allows you to take pretty much any type of video, any format, and convert it into a bunch of other different formats. And the reason that I love this is because it's very simple for the beginner. It's easy to use. It works as a batch, so you can load up, 15 AVI files. And if you don't know what an AVI file is, don't worry, you will by the time we're done. But you can load up 15 video files and convert them to a different format. Just turn it on and walk away. When it's done, then you can, upload them or do whatever. And it'll even do Flash. It'll create FLVs for you. That is a pretty low-end editor or converter because it doesn't give you a ton of options. You can make some changes, but that's kind of why I like it, because there's not a lot of decisions that have to be made. Other ones, Media Coder, that's another one, open source even. You can get that one for free, but it's very complicated. It has a lot of options. Video encoding, just so you know, can be a very confusing topic, especially to a newbie. There's a lot of things to consider. So when you get started with this, you want to make that as simple as possible. So that's why I recommend Prism. Another one is Sorensen Squeeze. And by the way, since I mentioned Sorensen, I thought right away of the price, which is pretty high. That made me think of Prism's cost, though I think it was about $30. So very reasonable. Very, very reasonable. Sorensen is pretty awesome. Squeeze will... It also does batches, and it takes it a step further. You can configure Sorensen with what's called a watched folder. And with that, you tell it to watch a particular folder. And as you create content and you save the content to that folder, it can be configured to automatically upload that to a server. So as new content comes in, it'll encode it in whatever format you selected, and then when it's done, it'll upload it to the server. So very nice and very convenient. And if you're doing a lot of conversion kind of stuff, definitely a good tool. What I mean by that, doing a lot of conversion, Sorensen Squeeze and other video converters are used. See, what I do and what you'll be doing if you do this kind of work is you create not a whole lot of videos. You might do 5 or 6 videos a day, maybe not even that much. You might do 3 or 4. So that's not such a big deal, the automation stuff. But what Sorensen is kind of geared towards is, let's say that you had 100 VHS tapes that were copied or digitized onto the computer, and you wanted to convert all of them to MP4 or to Flash even, or to some other type of format. It makes it real convenient and easy to do that kind of stuff. And then, of course, it'll automatically upload when it gets done. So that's what those kinds of converters are geared towards. For us, we're going to create a video. We might work all day on one video, and then at the end, we're just going to go ahead and encode one video and convert it to a different format. So that kind of stuff is not quite as important. But that is basically the applications that I use. Again, we talked about the equipment. I almost forgot I was going to let you know the ones that you definitely need to start with. And here we go. Camtasia Studio. I highly recommend that you start with that, because you're going to make, there's opportunity for a lot of money in doing any kind of training and demos and stuff like that. Even presentations. And I'm not, it's not necessarily doing a training on some type of computer program. A lot of times I have customers that they want me to do training on some topic, and it's not necessarily a computer or anything that's related to a computer. But you can do that with Camtasia if you use, like, for example, PowerPoint. So PowerPoint is another application that I recommend you definitely start with. So we've got Camtasia, we've got PowerPoint, and then I would say the next thing, the next most important thing would be a video editor, a real high-end video editor like Sony Vegas Pro or Adobe Premiere Pro. Of course, you also need an FTP client. That's definitely critical to be able to upload the files to servers and all that kind of stuff. So those are the programs you definitely have to start with. And then as you master those and you want to make things a little bit more robust, then you can start adding some of the other applications. All of this, the beauty of working online is that all of this can be outsourced. So, for example, let's say you had somebody contact you and they wanted something created and they wanted it to be a little bit fancy, maybe with an opening screen or some music or something put in there. And let's say you don't do graphics yet. You just started doing this and you don't have Photoshop, you're not into it yet. You can go to some of the sites that I'm going to tell you, actually the same sites that you're going to go to find work. You can post jobs there, and you can What we're going to look at in this module is your relationships with the client, from everything from getting a new client and bidding on projects, how to structure your pricing, how to be effective in communicating with them. And the reason for that is it's very important to make yourself available to the client. It's very important from their standpoint. And so if you can cater to that, then you're going to be more successful. So what this module is on is really the whole client and provider relationship. The first thing we're going to look at is finding clients. Okay, this is easy if you know how, but this is one of the most important parts if you're just starting out in something like this, is because you've got to be able to get those customers. At first, don't expect to get a whole lot, because you've got to slowly build your business up. But what I'm going to show you is a way to be effective so that, at the beginning of this, if you don't know, if you're not familiar, if you don't have the experience, a lot of this would be hit and miss. What I want to do is kind of streamline that process for you and tell you maybe some of the mistakes that I have made in the past and what I'm doing now that works. I'm going to literally be revealing secrets to you about how I do business, about where I do business. But I'm not worried about it because there's no shortage of work out there for this type of thing. In fact, I'll be honest with you, there are not a lot of good quality video providers out there. By that, what I mean is people that will do the things that are needed to make a client happy. At least on what I'm talking about here is on the sites that I'm mentioning. Now, there are some big companies, some huge companies that provide this kind of service to, larger outfits for, of course, a reasonable fee. But at the beginning, you're going to use the techniques that I'm going to show you to find clients. But that's not how things will probably continue, because what happens usually, if you're good at what you do and if people like it and you've got a good price, then you're going to build yourself up a list of clientele, and more than likely they will keep you pretty busy. I deal with probably maybe 6 or 7 regular clients, and then I do, an occasional time or two that I have new people come in and they just order one thing. But like I said, I've got 6 or 7 clients that provide me steady work, almost more than I can handle. What I will do, though, is occasionally I keep my accounts at the sites that I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute. I keep those accounts, and occasionally I'll go there if maybe I don't have anything to do. I don't have anything scheduled for the next, maybe next week I don't have something scheduled. So I'll go there. I'll see if there's something that I'm interested in doing, bid on it, and fill up that time. That way, I don't have any time that I'm sitting around. So finding the clients is easy. There's a whole lot of work that needs to be done, so that's not a problem. One tricky part is knowing what to bid. The reason this is so tricky is because you don't want to underbid yourself and you don't want to overbid yourself. You've also got clients that, and I'll tell you here right up front, just give you kind of a warning. You will deal with clients that don't want to pay what it's actually worth. And then you will deal with clients that don't have a problem paying, what it's worth. So that's something to keep in mind. You can handle that however you want to. Let me tell you how I handle it. Let's say, for example, that when I first started out, I would bid whatever. I told you in one of the other videos, I did like 4 hours of Photoshop training for $360. Well, the man that I did that training for, he felt so bad, I think, because I did such a good job and I put so much into it. He gave me a $400 bonus when the training was over, because he knew it was worth a lot more than that. So, unfortunately, there's not a lot of people out there like that. So what you're going to find is that at the beginning, you're going to be tempted. If you don't have any experience, you're going to be tempted to bid really low no matter what. And that's not necessarily bad when you're first starting out, because you really, you don't have the experience. So you might have to bid really low, go ahead and get some jobs so that you can see how things work and see how you do and see how the clients like the work that you're doing. But ultimately, what we want to do is find the true value that we're able to put into that, and that's what you want to charge. You don't want to charge, $30 an hour if everybody out there is willing to pay $75 an hour or $100 an hour. At the same time, you will have people that come up and they want a $100 hour job and they want to pay you $30 an hour. It's up to you how you handle that. I used to go ahead and be very flexible and do whatever they wanted because I was desperate. I wanted to get into this so bad. I wanted to do it because I loved it, and I didn't have a lot of clients. Plus, I didn't know how to communicate with people really and let them know that I know what it's worth without, just coming out and saying that. But what I do now is I am flexible. You have to be a little bit flexible, but only within a range, basically. When I have a new client, and we'll just, aside from, let me tell you what we're going to do here in just a minute. On the next slide, we're going to talk about some websites that you can go to get jobs. What you do there is you bid on those jobs, and these are new people that you're dealing with, and they will either, go with you or go with somebody else. But once you get kind of a reputation and people find out about you, or even on those sites as well, you want to have kind of a set price. But that set price needs to be negotiable. Everything is up to negotiation, all right? So let's say that you're going to do video training. And however you want to do this, if you want to charge by the minute, if you want to charge by 15-minute blocks, hour blocks, whatever you want to do, you're going to set a bid amount. And I'm just going to give you an example here. Let's say for an hour of training, you're going to charge $2,500. And I can actually show you websites that's what they charge. Well, whenever you bid on a job, or whenever a new client approaches you, maybe they send you an email, they heard about you or something, you're going to submit that stock set rate. That's what you're going to tell them that it costs. Then depending on what they feed back to you, you want to be, flexible with that. I'll just give you an example. For 60-second promotional videos, it's got graphics, animation, voice, and music, and all that kind of stuff. I charge $525 for a 60-second clip. Now, that's a pretty cheap price if you go out and you look around. But I'm a one-man shop, and it doesn't take me very long to get something up like that. I might spend, maybe a whole day on it. But if I send or I submit a proposal, or I send an email to somebody, and they come back and they say, Ken, we checked out your profile. You got really great work. That's a little bit out of our budget. Is there anything you can do for us? And you gotta, in those emails and those communications, you gotta look for language. Sometimes they don't come right out and say, can you give us a better price? Sometimes they might just say, it's a little bit out of our budget. We really appreciate your submission. That still kind of leaves an open door. The reason that they didn't just email you back and said, no, thanks, we're not interested, they emailed you back and they talked to you about the price. So that leaves you an open door to go ahead and maybe pursue that. I will, like if somebody called me and they said, or they emailed me and they said, okay, we need a video clip, 60-second clip, something viral, and I submit them and I tell them I want $525 for this 60-second clip. And they say, well, we kind of need 2 clips and we've got a budget of $1,000 and we can't go over that budget. I might knock $80, $90 off of that. What is that to $1,000? So you got to be a little flexible. And 2, you have people that maybe their budget isn't $1,000, but they want to grind you a little bit. They want the satisfaction that they ground you down. So you got to kind of give yourself, and what I'm saying is when you set your rate, give yourself a little bit of grind room so that, you got it kind of figured in there. If you don't have to, that's great, but just give yourself that room in the beginning. I forgot to mention too, I wanted to let you know that the video style that you're watching right now is different than the first 2 videos. And here's why. I wanted to give you kind of a first-hand view of the different types of presentation styles. What you're looking at right now is a PowerPoint presentation. Now, I haven't gotten fancy with the graphics and with the text. Certainly, there's a lot more that PowerPoint can do. But this is a basic presentation. You see how the text comes up on the screen, and you press the arrow key or space bar on your keyboard, and it goes to the next topic. Like, I'll go ahead and that's a perfect segue into the next topic, which is communication is the key. Whenever dealing with a client, and that is whether you do it on one of the sites that we're going to talk about on the next slide, or you're doing an email or whatever, you have to understand that you're kind of unknown to them if they haven't worked with you before. And of course, whenever people do business on the internet, a lot of things are unknown, and there's kind of a trust issue there. Plus, people like answers right away. They're dealing with somebody online. So, if you're in California and they're in New York, they want to be able to ask you a question and get a response, like not 3 days later. One thing that you can do, and we'll discuss this when we actually take a look at how we go about doing this. I'm going to show you kind of a live example. One thing that you need to do is make yourself available. That means instant messenger. That means email. That means reply quickly. Communication is the key. So these are the 4 things that we're going to talk about in this module, and we're going to go kind of into a little bit more detail. To start off with, let's go ahead and look at finding clients. You're going to use sites like elance.com, rentacoder.com, and guru.com. That doesn't mean these are the only ones. There's tons of these kind of sites out there. Do a search on Google for freelance, and you will find a slew of stuff. These are the 3 that I typically stick with, the 3 that I use. My favorite is probably Elance. I like their interface. I like how easy they make things. The guru.com, they're a lot more complicated to actually run, in my opinion, so they're not quite as user-friendly. Rentacoder, again, they're not really real. They're not that complex, but they're not as streamlined as Elance. Elance really has a good interface from the buyer's perspective and from the provider's perspective. We're going to actually, in just a few minutes, we're going to go to these sites and I'm going to show you how they work. But keep in mind, the goal here, some people build a business on Elance, for example, and they just do a ton of work there. I don't really spend a lot of time there anymore. Rentacoder and Guru. Okay, Rentacoder is free completely. I don't even think they have a paid subscription. All of these sites get their money from, whenever you do work, they get a percentage. Rentacoder doesn't charge anything on top of that. Guru has a free account that you can get. They've also got a paid account that lets you do a lot more. Elance is, I believe they have a free account too. That gives you a limited amount of communication that you can do. Like, for example, maybe you can only bid on 2 jobs a month or something like that. They have a paid account. It's $9.95. That's the one that I use. It gives me plenty of, they call them connects on Elance, where you can go there. You have a certain amount of connects per month, and every time you bid on a job, that takes away from your connects. And the value of the job that you're bidding on, that's what determines how many connects you use up. I don't have the rundown for you. It's on their site. But so, for example, if the job is less than $500, it's going to be like 1 connect. If it's 500 to 1,000, it might be 2 connects. So each one of these provide the interface between somebody who is looking for a job to be done and somebody who is able to do that job. And then again, they will either charge you for a monthly membership maybe, or they just, they charge you for the monthly membership and they take a percentage, or like Rentacoder, they just take a percentage. And this is kind of another one of those things you have to take into account when you figure out how much you're going to charge, is that they're going to ding you for a percentage. So you kind of got to work that in there. And that is another reason why eventually you want to move people off of those sites. So don't just hang out there forever. I usually, like I said before, if I've got a slow day or a slow week or something, and I don't have anything scheduled, which hasn't been lately, then I'll go there and I'll see if there's something small maybe that I can squeeze in. But I don't like keep going with the same customers there. After this, my customers are going to contact me directly, so I don't have to keep paying that. Let's go ahead, and I think the best way to learn from this is to just see how it works. And I've got all of these opened up. We'll do a really quick run through to all three of them, and then we'll go back. They all work pretty much the same way as far as you look for jobs, and then you bid on those jobs. Now, the actual ways that they do it vary a little bit. I will tell you this bit of advice: RoboForm. Get yourself RoboForm. That is an amazing tool. If you're going to be working online, anything like this, you want RoboForm because it keeps track of all of your sign-ins, your user IDs, passwords, all your information, anything that you have to fill out. It's all automated in there, and it's great. So anyhow, for what that's worth. Here's Elance at elance.com. I have already logged into my account. The tab is set to Find Professionals. Now, that's what somebody would do if they have a project and they are looking for somebody specifically maybe that can do that job. We want to go to Find Work. And I'll let that come in. You can see, we're not going to actually do a search yet. I'll come back and I'll use Elance in a minute. But you can see they've got different categories. It shows you some of the jobs within the categories. And then you can type a specific keyword that may be something that you do, and you can search for that as well, and you'll see the jobs. Again, we'll come back to that in just a minute. Guru, basically the same kind of thing. You can search for keywords. Okay, they've got employers and freelancers over here. So terminology is a little bit different, but it's basically the same thing. You can search, they've got categories. And what a lot of them do is allow you to subscribe to specific categories, and you can even get notified when a job is posted within that category. You can get an email notification, for example. But this is Guru. They have redone this website in, I believe, the last maybe 4 months. So it's a little better than it used to be. It used to be almost strictly text-based, and it looked kind of lame, actually. But they've redone it. It's still not as efficient as Elance, in my opinion, but they're making some headway here. And then we've got Rent-A-Coder. Rent-A-Coder is still very coder-oriented. Let's go ahead. We'll click My Bids here. The way that they go about doing all of their stuff is a little bit confusing. It's not very intuitive. You actually have to know what you're looking for and what you're doing. So here, again, the same basic thing applies, is that you're going to search for something. You can browse through, and you can see what's available. Like if I do browse all work. Now on Rent-A-Coder, that's going to about blow you away because, I mean, look at all the categories that they have got here. If you want to go through all of this, you're going to be in trouble. What you would really do, especially in this specific field, each one of these, if you want to browse through and just kind of see what's there, because sometimes, the specific job that we're willing to, maybe, for example, somebody doesn't know the terminology to use in the industry, so they post something. If you were to read it, you could see that it's related and that you could do it. But if you were to just search for a specific keyword, maybe their job would never come up. So browsing through here is not a bad idea. But what you should do is go to each one of these and set up the categories that you're interested in. And those are the ones that you check out and just kind of browse through there. Again, Rent-A-Coder, not very intuitive. It has, to me, the reason that it's even better than Guru, though, is because there's much more available, like, on one screen. So at least you can usually get to where you need to go pretty quick. But, like I said, Elance is the one that I like the best. Very intuitive interface. Let's go ahead, and for this particular, I am in category Design and Multimedia. So I'm going to click on that. That's because that's the one that fits the best for video stuff, and that's the one you'll probably want to sign up to as well. Notice that we've got even subcategories underneath that, because a lot of things fall into Design and Multimedia. What you get if you hover over one of these is some of the last the ones that have been posted in the last 24 hours. And those are really good because it's always good to be one of the first people to respond to a project, because you're going to get probably a little more attention that way. If it's a real popular project and they've got, like 30 people submitting proposals, it's going to be difficult. But you know what? That just reminds me, I haven't quite explained how this process works. So let me go ahead and do that now. Whenever somebody has something that they need to get done, they will post a description of what they need, and most of the time they'll put a range of price what they'd like to pay. That is by no means set in stone, so don't worry if it says under $500. A lot of them say that. But I have seen that a lot of times that's because people really don't know what it's worth, so they just put that. That's what they'd like to pay maybe. But a lot of times I have bid on a job, and I've been twice as much as that, and I've told them, I see your budget's less than $500, but there's no way that's going to happen. I don't necessarily word it that way. But they went ahead and they go with me because they didn't know really what it was worth, and they just have to pick an option there. So that's the one that they picked. But they'll go there and they'll put a title, they'll do a description, set maybe a budget, and then people will be notified, or they'll go in and they'll search people that are providers that are able to do the job, and they will bid on, okay, this is how much I will do that job for. And then the buyer has to go through, maybe look at your portfolio, look at some samples, communicate with you a little bit, and then, of course, consider the cost. But don't let your bid amount be the determining factor. That's one thing that because I do a lot of training for buyers as well, and one thing that I tell them is whenever you're going to outsource and you're going to go to one of these sites and get somebody to do some work for you, don't just automatically take the lowest bidder, because there's a lot of times there's reasons why they're the lowest bidder. You don't necessarily take the highest bidder. The highest bidder is not always the one that gives you the best work. You actually have to sit down and go through their work and talk with them. Whether that's email, on the phone, or whatever. Look at their samples, see what they're going to give you, see what kind of reputation they have, what kind of turnaround time they're going to offer. All those things have to be taken into account. So don't just shoot low because you think that's going to get you the job. My experience is, if you're dealing with somebody that is only considering price, then it's a waste of time, and don't deal with them. The only reason I say that is because unless you're kind of the kind of person that's like, I'll do anything for money, then knock yourself out. But I don't want to let my quality suffer because the price is so low. So yes, I walk away from a lot of jobs. I'll go browsing through there, and I'll see something where they obviously, like, they might put, not only do they put that their budget is less than $500, they might put in the actual listing, I'm going to pay $100 for this maximum. And I'll just say, okay, that's good, and move on to the next one. Don't waste your time with it. That kind of stuff comes with experience, okay, after you get your feet wet a little bit and get some experience. So here, what we have, now you know how I still didn't do it. You go through and you bid on the job. Other people are bidding on the job. The client will give the job to somebody. You do it, they approve it, and you get paid. That's the way that it works. Okay, now, what they're showing you here again is jobs that have been posted in the last 24 hours. Obviously, there could be more than this, but this is all that shows up on this screen. So we're going to click See All. And this shows us 455 projects posted as of right now. And we can just go through here. Now you'll notice this depends on how focused you want your business to be. Do you want to only do video? Do you want to only do training? Do you want to only do promos? Do you want to only do voiceovers, commercials? Depends on how focused you want to be. Over here on the left, we have a lot of subcategories, okay? More than was on the last page. And that lets us get things a little bit more focused. But bear in mind that the people that posted the job, they selected what subcategory it's going in. So that doesn't mean that it's always in the right one. So just kind of keep that in mind. So what we have to do is not only browse through here, but we also have to search for specific things that have to do with our industry. Let's go ahead and do voice talent. Click on that subcategory, and you can see we've got a number of jobs posted here. Let's go ahead and just look at one that is getting a good bit of response there. And it's not a sealed bid, which means we'll be able to see the amounts. Or actually, it is a sealed bid, but I'm going to go back here. That's something I haven't noticed before. Look at that. When I hover over it, it tells me the average bid, the lowest bid, and the highest bid. And to be honest, I didn't think they were supposed to give you that information. I might have found a bug on Elance. I didn't think they were supposed to give you that information on sealed bids. Because see here, it says bids received, average bid sealed. It's supposed to be sealed. That's what all this means. I'll show you the difference between a sealed bid and a non-sealed bid. But here on Elance, anyhow, that's good information for me to note. Here on Elance, and good information for you too. We've got the buyer. We've got their budget. This is what they are projecting that it's going to be, between $500 and $1,000. The number of bids that they've got, when they posted the job, and then when the bidding closes. They've set it up for it to end on a specific day. In this case, it is the 24th, so it's going to end tomorrow on the 25th. They give you a description, what they're going to do, what they're requiring. Some of these, they give you a lot of detail. Some of them don't. That's what you have to communicate with them about. And one thing I'll advise you right now, get details, because you don't want to be trapped. This is one place that I learned very quickly. Get details and outline. This is what I'm going to do for you, X, Y, Z, period. Because you will have people try to abuse that, and they'll try to get you to do more that was not included in your proposal. So outline specifically exactly what you're going to do. If you're going to allow them to, like, for example, this is an audio thing, some kind of audio reading. If it's going to be like, a 40-minute reading, like it says right here, then what you're going to do is you're going to record. You're going to take that into account, how long it's going to take you to record it and edit it. And if you're going to allow them, with a 40-minute reading, that would be kind of tough. But for like a 60-second commercial, maybe you're going to allow them a retake if they don't like it. You put in that proposal, you get one retake. Okay, so take that into consideration. We've got some more project details here up at the top. This is how you're going to first on Elance. This is a way that you can go ahead and ask them a question without actually bidding on it. And then if you want to, you can create a proposal down here and tell them, again, outline everything that you're going to do. Send them, introduce yourself, send them to your portfolio, let them see samples, all that kind of stuff. You can attach files. If you did a demo for them specifically, sometimes, especially for audio work, they will ask you to read a sample of the script, read like a paragraph so they can hear it. And then you set your bid amount. We're going to be talking about bidding later on, how you figure out those factors, how you decide what you're going to charge for different stuff. But put your bid amount, the amount of time that it's going to take you to get it done. In order, I'm going to deliver it within 2 weeks. I'm going to deliver it within 3 weeks. Whatever the case might be. Payment type, this is going to be an escrow. And escrow works like this. If, let's say, usually you find escrows with bigger jobs, not with the tiny ones like $100 or something, but with bigger jobs, this protects the buyer and the freelancer, the provider. Let's say you bid $1,000. The buyer is going to have to deposit the $1,000 or a portion of it. If you do like a payment thing, for example, you could say, this job's going to take a month for me to do. So when I submit half of it, I want to get 50% payment. You can do that. The buyer will have to make a deposit to match that. And then once you submit the work and you get approved, the escrow is going to be released to you, so you get your payment. So let's just say, for example, you had a $5,000 job. You're going to do a commercial. And what you want to do is, because you've got to do a lot of recording and casts and all this kind of stuff, you're going to say, after the script is approved and after you have the first audio take, recording or whatever, you get $1,000. And then after you submit the first revision, you get $2,500. And then after you submit the last final approved version, you get the balance. Okay? And that does not always mean that you're going to do, that you have to do a review and redo something. I've set up things where, they're going to get to review it, and then I get my money at the end. When they review it, they say, "Hey, Ken, it's fine." And they take it just like that. Okay? So just because you give somebody the opportunity to, redo something, that does not mean you always have to do it. Connects, this is what I was talking about before on Elance. They give you a specific amount of connects per month. This one is going to take up 2 connects, and again, that's because they set the range at between $500 and $1,000. If I bid $1,500, it's still going to be 2 connects because they set that range. Okay, and now down at the bottom, this is one thing that I like particularly about Elance, and it's good for a newbie. They have recently made a change which makes it a little bit difficult. Now sealed is the default, and that's why you see a lot of sealed auctions now. But what they used to do is sealed was not the default, and when somebody put a project out there and people bid on it, you would actually see their bid amount here. And that was real handy because, if you see this job and you're like, I think I could probably do that for $500, and you go down here and everybody's bidding over $1,000, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Okay? So it was real handy. Now, like I said, whenever they submit a project like that, the default option is sealed. So a lot of people don't change it. They just leave it like this. And what that means is that you can't see how much people are bidding. That's really the way that it works on most of the other sites that you can't see, like on Rent-A-Coder, for example. You can't see what other people are bidding. But, however, we did go back here, and here's the same job, and I'm hovering over the number of bids, and it is showing me the average bid, and that is insane. It is doing that for all of these sealed bids, and I have never seen that before. But that's good to know. Again, I go in here just on occasion to, fill in some time, perhaps. But this is the way that I would browse around. Now let's say that I wanted to get kind of specific. If we go back to design and multimedia, like I said before, people could put different things in different categories. Let's say that we're going to do online training. Well, somebody could put that in other multimedia services. If it has to do with graphics, they might put it in illustration. They might really not know. They could put it in videography and editing. They could put it, they actually have they have, it's in a different main category. They have something on training. So a lot of different areas where things could go here. So the way that we get around that is by using the keywords. Now in this industry, let's say you're going to do computer-based training. That's the niche that you're going to pick. Your keywords are going to be like training, tutorial, Camtasia, things like that, screen capture, anything that describes what your industry is. Now with this kind of thing, Camtasia is a huge keyword because just about everybody knows it. You will still have clients that don't know that you actually use Camtasia to do that kind of thing. And, they really don't care. But then you also do have clients that know that Camtasia is the standard in the industry. So, and I have no idea, I promise you, I did not go in and look at anything in here today. This is totally blind, so you're going to see exactly what I would do looking for that kind of work. I'm going to look for Camtasia first, and I'm going to see if anything comes up. Okay, it looks like we have a number of things popping up here. And I might find a job right now. It depends on if it's something that looks very attractive to me. Again, all of these being sealed. Let's take a look before we go in, because we found out this sneaky information. Let's go ahead and hover over the bid so that we've got an idea. Now, notice on this one, it says less than $500. That's what he set as the budget. Okay. But when we hover over that, somebody bid $550. So it's not set in stone. It's just, that's their ballpark guess. This one they said, not sure. And several people bid on that one actually. 500 on that. So now look at that. This one has $1,000, $500 to $1,000. Somebody bid $1,400. Somebody bid up to $4,000 on that one. I'll probably have to check that one out. And okay, so that one falls within the range. Let's go ahead while we're having fun here and go ahead and do that big job demo and tutorial flash and video. Let's check it out. This is a project for my client who has 4 software applications for Microsoft Windows. Their end users are professionals but have basic computer skills. So they're going to outline what they're going to do. The project is to create, they're going to outline what they're wanting. 3 levels of demo and tutorials, quick overview of the 4 applications, maybe less than 3 minutes. Detailed sales demo, 10 to 15 minutes. Tutorial for each application. And then, okay, we can provide the contractor web link information, copy of the program to play with, salesperson's voice, basis for knowledge. Okay, that's easy enough. Delivered via website, and they want to ship it out on CD. So they're going to give you, in this case, here's one thing that you will run into a lot is you want to know requirements. You want to know what the deliverables are. How do I need to submit this to you? Because there's going to be, most people, what I do is I give them the raw AVI video, plus I give them one format. Now, that would be like maybe Flash, or they want an MP4 or an MOV, whatever they want. If they're a good customer, or if they just ask, I'll give them another format. If later on they don't outline that, and later on they say, hey Ken, could I get this in Flash too? Then I'll go ahead and encode it for them. Typically, but if they're in the job here and they post like 10 different formats, then definitely take that into consideration, because it's going to be very time consuming. Whenever you have to render out your files, it takes a long time. Your computer is bogged down. It's basically worthless until it's done with that. So you got to take that into consideration. We're looking for one provider to create all 3 demo and presentations in 3 phases. Now, I will tell you, I am definitely going to bid on this job. It's ending in 12 days. Not sure I'm going to get it, but I'm going to bid on it because this is exactly what I like to do. I think I'm going to save this. The last module that I'm going to do, that I plan to do here, I'm going to do a walkthrough. So I think I'm going to save this for the end, but we will definitely be coming back to this. Now notice the number of connects that it would take here, 4. That's because they put more than 1,000. Okay, so the connects is higher. Let's go back. And let's take a look at maybe this one right here. 3 to 5 minute web video sales presentation. 3 to 5 minute professional video. What's there between 500 and 1,000? A lot. They've got some examples of kind of what they want it to look like. And here's the people that have bid on it. Now, this is typically what you see. And granted, this is more information than a lot of the other freelance sites give you. And that's why I like Elance so much. Most of the time, like on Guru, on Rent-A-Coder, you don't really see who else has been bidding on it. And the reason that Elance is so powerful this way is because I can go in here and I can see, this is all part of research. I can go in here and I can see what these people are bidding on. I can see what they're doing, what real business they're doing on Elance. I can see what they're like after the fact. Maybe right now the bidding is sealed, but after the fact, I could go back here and I can find out if they picked this person. If they picked him, I can see what he got paid for that. Can't always find out what kind of job they did, unless the URL is posted in here so that you know to go check it out later on. But it provides you a ton of helpful information as far as doing your research to figure out how much you're going to charge, and what's going on, so you can get a feel for the industry. Now, that being said, we're just going to do one more thing. I want to show you how with different keywords, like notice in the titles here, Camtasia is coming up a lot. Okay, but their search engine is pretty smart, so it kind of associates things. It won't necessarily have Camtasia. If it's a video training, a lot of times it'll catch it. But if I do training only, I got 6 on this one. Let's see what comes up. And notice that not all these are training. They might be promotional stuff. Okay, so here's some other kind of training. A lot of stuff popping up here. 3 pages, 75 projects posted. Tutorial. Let's go ahead and do that one. Okay, and that one gives me 12. So you can see how with 3 different words that could all be interlinked, I get 3 different results. Some of these will be repeats, like this one I believe was on the first result. But as a matter of fact, I think that's the one that we looked at. Yeah, it is. But anyhow, you got to kind of get a feel for what it is that you're doing, and you'll pick up on a lot of those keywords. But training, tutorial, Camtasia, screen capture, with those 4, you'll get a ton of business, trust me. So let's go ahead now, and what we want to do is talk a little bit about your price, because you want to be able to bid effectively. You don't want to just throw a number out there. Remember, the bid is important, but not because it has to be low. You do not have to be the lowest bidder to get the job. Sure, you can go ahead and try to do things that way. Try to run your business by undercutting everybody, but you're going to be working really hard for pennies. So that's not what I recommend. Also, a word to the wise, typically these sites, Elance, Rent-A-Coder, all that, they are pretty competitive. So a lot of people are doing kind of what I do, is they go there when they've got some free time available and they want to fill it up. So it's pretty competitive for that reason. But are my rates the same on Elance that they are off of Elance? Well, not necessarily. If I've got a good customer that comes to me regularly, I give them a good price. But if somebody out of the blue contacts me and says, you were referred by such and such, then I'm not going to necessarily start them out as competitive as I might on Elance. I did that in the beginning. I was very competitive on Elance, but once I got more experience and I was able to put a better quality product out there, then I just realized I didn't really have to be that competitive. I could show them the goods and they'll be like, yeah, okay, we want that. Because you got to understand, these people that are bidding really low, their samples are going to reflect their product. So you do the same. If your product is really worth something, then you need to charge accordingly. You kind of need to figure out, when you get started in this, is how much do you want to make? You can do that by a week. You can do that by the hour, whatever. Get a figure in your mind. If you want to make $100 an hour and you think you can actually book yourself 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, whatever, then, that's your target. And that's how you need to factor in when you start to bid things. Another thing to factor in is maybe I'm going to charge $100 an hour, but I don't expect to work 40 hours a week. Maybe I'm only going to work 20 hours a week. because I won't have that much work to do, or I don't want to do that much work. It's up to you. But get that amount figured in there. You know, if you're making $75 an hour on your job right now, then you're not going to come in here and charge $35 an hour. Doesn't make any sense. On the other hand, if you're making $20 an hour and you'd like to charge $75 or $100 an hour, that's where you're going to actually, exceed or succeed, I should say. So think about what you want to make, and then also you have to take into account what others are charging. Now, do this from a research standpoint, not from the standpoint, I've got to be competitive. Do it from a research standpoint. That means you check out what they're doing. You check out what they're bidding on, what jobs they're actually getting. And if you can, check out their quality of work. You know what? Let me hop over to Elance again. Let's take a look at the big money job right here. That's going to probably be at least a couple $1,000s. But let's check out somebody. I'll just grab one out of the blue here. I will tell you this too. A lot of competition from overseas on all of these sites. Don't let it scare you. Fortunately, for audio and video work, if there's voice involved in that, they're gonna eventually have to go to somebody who is a native English speaker. So check out their portfolio, any references that they give there, and also you want to look at, let's do this one right here. You want to check out jobs that they did. Notice how it tells you the amount right there. So we can click on that. We can see who it was and how pleased they were with the work. And you can even go ahead and click on the job itself, and that way you'll get a description. Okay, get a description of what they asked for. Let's go. They had another one that was a little more high end, I think. Yeah, right there. Let's click on that one. Premier linking. Okay, and you can see a description of the job, what they did. That's the kind of research that you want to do. And you want to do it on several people, not just one, because you want to get an idea of the quality of the work, compared with the pricing. So all of that. And then we also take into consideration, what will the client pay? That doesn't mean you overcharge them, but that means, like I said before, don't shoot yourself in the foot. If you think you can do it for $500 and everybody else is bidding $1,500, and the client's going to have to pay that, in that case, you might want. Now that doesn't mean you bump yourself up to $1,500. That's not, it's not good business practice. If you've got experience and that you can do it quickly and you can give them good quality, then just take that into account, because a lot of times you can actually cut yourself off by being too low. So this works on the extreme. You can cut yourself off by being too low, and you can cut yourself off by being too high. Now that doesn't mean, like I said, that you set yourself right in the middle of everybody else, just, automatically. But talk to the client, let them see. One nice thing about this is you can let them see your work without actually bidding on the job. So you can start communication with them and ask them questions, kind of get a feel for what their requirements are going to be, get a feel for what they're actually looking for, and if they like your work at all. And that'll help you adjust things. Like, for example, let's just say that you knew everybody was going to try to rip somebody off and they were way overpricing the job, and you knew you could do it for $500, everybody else was bidding around $1,500. You might start to initiate communication with the client, let them see your work, and then talk about things, discuss it a little bit more. And if they really like your work and they are communicating regularly with you, then tell them, finally tell them, yeah, I can do this for you for $800, $850. And at that point, they kind of opened up to you, so they might trust you a little bit more, and you won't necessarily cut yourself off. But if you were to just submit the bid and say, yeah, $500, here you go, then they might be like, well, that's probably junk, so I'm not even going to waste my time with it. Okay, so it is a little bit, there's some trickiness to it. There's some getting some experience and getting a feel for what will work and what won't work. Very important. But one thing I want you to take away from this is definitely set your rates. Don't be afraid to bend them. The reason that you do that is you want a standard, if something fits a description and you can put it into a category, you want a standard rate to give them. That helps you when you're working with jobs, when you're going to be bidding on jobs. It helps you not to have to, rack your brain so much figuring out what you're going to charge. And like I said, you can do it based on your time. You can do it based on the product. Like, for example, I charge $2,500 for 1 hour of video training. That means it might take me 20 hours to do it. It might take me 10 hours to do it. But the rate is set based on what I deliver. Somebody else might want to say, I charge $50 an hour for this, and on job A, for that 1 hour, I think it's going to take me 10 hours to do it, so I'll charge $500. On job B, I think it's going to take me 20 hours to do it, so I'll charge $1,000. Depends on how you want to work it, but just set your rates. Again, don't be afraid to bend them. That means, if they approach you and say, it's kind of a little bit out of our price range, be a little bit flexible, but don't just, slash your price in half just because they come back and say it's too expensive. Let them know, thanks for working with me. I appreciate this. Here's the best that I can do. I understand if it's still out of your price range. Now let's look at a very important factor in all of this, and that is communication. Clients want to be able to get through to you and get a response quickly. Remember, you might be on the other side of the world. You might be across town. You might be on the other side of the country. These projects could be very important to them, and a lot of them are taking a chance and outsourcing, and maybe they've never done that before. So they want to communicate, and this one single thing will give you such an edge over the competition that literally you can charge more, because there are a lot of lamers out there that bid on a job and maybe accept the job. They get it. And then the client is like sending them an email saying, where's this and where's that? And they ignore them. They don't have it ready, so they don't send anything to them, or they don't let them know what the progress is, or they never ask them questions about it. That's the worst thing that you could do. You don't want to be like a one-off and just get the job, get it to them whenever you want to, and get paid. You want to build a relationship. Here's what a lot of people do on eBay, people that sell things on eBay. Even if, let's say they're a big company and they have products that they sell, they'll list an auction, somebody buys it, and that's it. Then they list the same thing again, somebody buys it, and that's it. They never go back and do business with those customers again unless the customer just happens to come back. And that's a big mistake. They're losing a lot of money. The same thing applies right here. You want to build a relationship. You're going to it's almost like you're selling yourself up front to get a lead, to get a connection. And after that's made, you're going to, the lifetime value of that client could be incredible. The first job they give you, you might make $500. Maybe they're testing the water. And then if they build a relationship with you, that client could be worth $50,000 to you over the next 5 years. So communicate with them. Let them know when you submit that proposal, let them know I'm available via instant messenger. Here's my ID. I'm available via email, and I respond within 4 hours. Okay, maybe you give them hours that you're available, whatever. Even give them a phone number. This is a big one. If you can give somebody your phone number, you're saying to them, I am totally not afraid of you calling me. I'm not afraid of being accessible by you. And that will relieve a lot of anxiety as far as if they can trust you or not. And believe me, this is one of the areas, the biggest area where a provider would fail is lack of communication. Respond quickly, make yourself available, and you will succeed in this. Okay, let's go ahead and review things now just really quick. I want to just hit on the main points. We're going to use Elance, Rent-A-Coder Guru, any of the other kind of sites that you might know or might find. That's how we locate clients. We're going to search for projects based on keywords. We can also browse through the different categories that are available. And then we're going to bid based on the research that we have done and how much money we want to make. Even if, like, I'll tell you this, I have seen situations where maybe somebody posts a job to do us some training, and everybody that is replying is bidding like, $500. And you're like, well, I know that's going to take me a long time to do. I'd really rather make like 2,000 because it's going to take me a long time to do it. Well, if you notice, if you've done your research and you notice that everybody that's bidding on it is from India, so let's talk about project workflow and some of the steps and processes that are involved. If you have kind of an overview, a bird's eye view of what's going on, a lot of times that'll help you to plan. And this is what's going to help you be successful in the initial process, because a lot of times people don't take into consideration everything that's involved, in just working on one project and getting something done. So I'm going to give you kind of a little bit of insight to that. With your scheduling, this is very, very important. You need to consider all of the time that's going to be involved in a project. There's more than, let's just say, for example, you are going to get into the training niche and do tutorials. If somebody said, I want a 2-hour tutorial on using PowerPoint, it's not going to take you 2 hours to deal with that project. Okay? So you have to be aware of what all is involved, and I'm going to show you a big, a workflow so you can get a little bit of a better idea of what's involved graphically. But there's more to it than just, that 2-hour project. And you've got to work all of this into your schedule. We'll talk about overbooking here in just a minute. You have to say, okay, this is the amount, what I'm recommending to you. You don't have to do this, but what I'm recommending to you is set a specific amount of time that you're going to work every day. Sure, while you're building your business, you're going to have to put in some hours. I'll just tell you that. If you're really trying to start your own media marketing business, you're going to be working a lot. Unless you hire people to work for you right away, you're going to have to do everything. So you're going to have to schedule. You're going to have to. This is really the key, is being really tight as far as, planning. Don't just do things haphazard. Plan what you're going to do in the day. When I start my day, I typically don't do a ton of scheduling in advance. I mean, I might, if I've got a client that has something, coming up, maybe they've got a deadline or something, I might schedule something for the next week. But that's about as far ahead as I will go. I do things on more of a daily basis. I might schedule things on a normal basis. I might schedule things the next day. But that's my typical, that's as far as I want to go ahead because things change so much. But usually what I'll do is in the morning when I get on my computer, I check my email just to see if anything new and interesting has come in. And then I will see what things need to be done that day. And I use Microsoft Outlook. You can use anything else that you're familiar with, but I use Outlook because it's got my email there, it's got my calendar there, it's got tasks, it's got a ton of stuff that works together. And what I like to do is type in all of my tasks for the day, or a lot of times there's some left over from the previous day, and get those where I see, okay, here are the things that I need to accomplish today. And then I take those things and I figure out, okay, what realistically can I actually get done today? And then I will take those and I will schedule them for that day. Now, if something realistically, and again, you set your time. If you want to work 12 hours, go ahead and do it. But if you want to work 8 hours, set your time and say, realistically, I can get this done. It's going to take me 2 hours. This is going to take me an hour to get this done. Give yourself a break for lunch. Don't overwork yourself, okay? That's what everybody is doing. And it's, what are you living for? What are you trying to do this for? Are you trying to make money just to make money? Or are you trying to make money to enjoy life? Because if you want to enjoy life, then don't spend it working 18 hours a day. Okay? And I know it's hard. There's going to be crunches. Let me tell you this. I get a customer maybe on occasion that says, Ken, I am totally in a bind. I've got to have this video by the weekend. Okay? Now, number one, they got to pay for that emergency because it's not my problem, it's theirs. So if they're willing to pay for the emergency, I have put in 18-hour days back to back if there is a good reason. But when we're dealing with the normal ebb and flow of business, don't do that on a regular basis because you'll get burned out big time. Okay? It's no big deal for me if I got to work 18 hours because, there's an emergency job. And then I'll reward myself by maybe taking a day off next week or something. Do something with the family. I tell my wife, and she's a very understanding wife. I tell my wife, okay, hon, I've got an emergency. Client needs something. I'm going to be locked in the office. I don't want to be disturbed. And I can't come out until, midnight tonight. Whatever the case might be. She's very understanding with that because she knows that I'm building the business and we enjoy our lifestyle because of what I do. We get a lot of things that we wouldn't normally if I was working a 9 to 5 punching a clock or something. So there's a little bit of leeway there. But what I'm trying to tell you is on the norm, schedule yourself and don't overdo it. Okay, scheduling's very important. Sit down, figure out what you're going to do for the day. And the reason that I like this is, I come in the morning, do my scheduling. I know what's on the agenda for the day. So I'm not having to, rack my brain. What should I do next? I've done that in the morning. I've got it set. So I go to the first thing on the list and I do it. Now I'll give you a little bit of advice here. Give yourself a little bit of play. If, let's just say, I've got 5 things that I need to get done today. Each one of them is going to take me an hour. I'm not going to go like the first one from 8 to 9, the second one from 9 to 10, the third one from 10 to 11. Don't do that. You'll never do it. You'll never actually match up and things will start to cascade. And when you thought you were going to be done by 3, you'll end up getting done at 6. Okay, so give yourself a little bit of gap because you're going to get emails throughout the day. You're going to get phone calls throughout the day. If you're working from home, you're going to get interruptions throughout the day. So what I might do is, let's say I got 5 one-hour jobs. I'll do the first one 8 to 9, the second one 9:30 to 10:30, third one 11 to 12, take a lunch. Sometimes, yeah, I work through lunch. Sometimes I skip lunch. Sometimes I have my wife bring me something and I have a bite to eat while I'm working. Depends on how loaded down I am. Okay, but schedule things. It'll be a kindness to you. It'll be a help. Next thing is bidding. What we've got to do is whenever you're bidding on a job, there's a number of ways to work this in, but don't just say, this is a common mistake, and this is something that I did in the very beginning. Let's say somebody says, I want a training tutorial an hour long. What's your hourly rate? So it's okay to, what you don't want to do is get the mindset that, okay, you know what? On my 9 to 5 job, I'm making 15, 20 bucks an hour. So I'll just make a little bit more. I'll make $35 an hour. And then you tell them my hourly rate's $35 an hour. You might think that's great, but it's not. Because in order for you to get that hour of training done, not only have you had to record the training and edit the training, but you've had to spend time managing that project. You've had to spend time sending emails, possibly doing research. So there's a lot of things that are involved in there that you have to take into account. So the way that you can do this is either you have to kind of balloon the project a little bit, or, and you know what, I kind of feel like writing a little bit, so I think I'm going to write just a little bit. What you have to do is, let's just look at two different examples. In the first one, and I don't know how good my writing's going to be with this. In the first one, we're going to say we've got this 1 hour. Here is the project. 1 hour of training. And you can make really, really good at this. I'm going to give you some realistic numbers, okay? Some realistic numbers. But let's just say, for the sake of simplicity, this is a very simple project, and all you have to do, it doesn't have to be very good quality. It's not, corporate delivery or anything like that. 1 hour training, and it's an application that you know how to use. Well, in that case, in scenario number one, let's say I'm going to record for an hour. I can sit down and just knock it out, which that's not going to happen. But let's say that it did. Let's say that it could happen. I'm going to sit down, knock it out. I don't even have to edit it. So I tell them I want to make $35 an hour, which is like ridiculous, right? So what if I quoted $35 for that? That would be disaster. Because, yeah, let's say I sat down and I recorded for an hour, and then that's it. I didn't have to do anything else beyond that. I charge them $35. Now, if you use Elance or Rent-A-Coder or something, they're going to take a chunk of that. You're going to end up getting like maybe $30. But here's what happened. Let me explain to you what time you really took to create that hour. You had to send some emails. You had to search and find the job. Put a proposal together. You had to send and receive a bunch of emails, and that takes up a lot of time. Might have had to talk to the client on the phone. And then you do have to give yourself somewhat of an outline. You have to kind of, know what you're going to talk about at least, depending on the type of training that it is that you're going to do. If the client cares anything about the product, they're going to want to see that outline or even a script before you even produce it. They're going to want to, approve it. So there's some more email dialogue that you're going to go back and forth. Then you're going to sit down and you're going to record it. Then you're going to encode it. And that could take up, 10, 15 minutes just to have your computer doing that. And then you're going to maybe FTP it, upload it to the client. Then you're going to have to tell them, it's there, check it out. They're going to go ahead and check it out. Maybe they want you to make some changes to it. You're going to have to go back, edit out something, make a revision or whatever, encode it again, submit it to them again, and get an approval. Now, if you do that for $30 and you think you're doing good, you're not. That 1 hour of training took you probably 8 to 10 hours. Okay, realistically. let's look at the real world scenario. The way that we can do this is you can say, okay, for this 1 hour training, let's say I do want to make $35 an hour, which is extremely low, extremely low. But if you're going to bid on that job using this scenario of $35 an hour, you're going to have to say, okay, that 1 hour maybe is going to take me, let's just say, 10 hours for the entire project. So that means I'm going to charge $350. Okay, but here again, what we're looking at in this case is you not doing anything special. You sitting down and recording, and if you make mistakes or you sound terrible or something doesn't work out right, that's what they get. Okay, so do you see how that 1 hour training has ballooned out, and now this is what you're going to charge, and that's at an extremely low hourly rate, and that's without doing anything fancy. You're going to sit down, record, talk for an hour, show them something for an hour, and then give it to them. That's it, over and done. That's not realistic. That's not a good way. That's not a good business model. There are people that do this. I'm going to tell you. There are people that do this exact thing. And there are people that will buy it because all they want is an hour of content. They don't care about it. But this is not where you're going to be the most profitable. This is not where you're going to make your money. Where you're going to make your money is in scenario 2. And this, granted, we're talking about media marketing here. This could be, doing podcasting. This could be doing audiobooks. This could be doing promotional videos, tons of different things. We're focusing right now on training, on tutorials. You could pick any of this kind of stuff, or you could do what I do all of it. So this same concept, though the amounts and the times and all that stuff, that is totally different. But the same concept is applied to everything. Let me just give you an illustration. The first video that you watched in this training, okay, that first introductory video is like 5 minutes long. That took me an entire day to put that together. 5 minutes. Now, granted, that was, I had a lot of extra effects and stuff like that. I had a lot of things, eye candy is what you call it. This one right here is more of a presentation style, and so it doesn't take nearly as long to do. But there still is a lot of time involved in this, and that's what you have to take into account when you're going to bid. Let's look at scenario number 2. This is my favorite scenario. This is the way that I actually conduct business. What I decided to do was, number 1, I wanted to make $75 an hour. Okay, I thought that was kind of a fair rate. I did a little bit of research. I found out there are, in fact, some other companies that make a lot more than that, but they've got a bigger staff. They've got a bigger facility, and they've got a lot of overhead that they got to take care of. I wanted to make $75 an hour. So here's what I did. I kind of figured out how many hours it would take to create an hour of training on something that I'm familiar with. And I'll tell you here, I've got clients that come and they say something simple, like I want training on Microsoft Word. I'm very familiar with it. I've done a lot of training in the past for that. I can pretty much write out an outline very quickly, and I know what I'm going to be doing and record it. Then you also have clients that say, hey, I've got a custom application, and we wrote it, our company owns it, we need a tutorial done for that. That's a totally different rate for me. It's not that I'm still making the same amount hourly, but what I do is I charge based on the finished product. So for example, I've got 2 rates, one for applications that I'm familiar with or things that I'm familiar with. For example, if somebody wanted training on using Google AdWords, okay, and they came to me and they said, we need training on this, I can create video training for that. It's more of a concept, right? There's a little bit of tools in there, but it's more of a concept. Same thing with this video that you're watching right now. This is a concept. So I can sit down because I know the material and I can create that. Well, on the other side of things, if they come to me and they say, here's this application that, it's our custom application, that's going to get charged at a different finished rate. So that's the way I do things, is based on the finished time. So if it's an application that I'm very familiar with, 1 hour of training is going to be set at one rate. And if it's an application I'm not familiar with, there's going to be a lot of research involved. There's going to be a lot of script creation involved, that kind of stuff. That's going to be charged. An hour of training for that type of product is going to be considerably more. And I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead. I have no fear, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you exactly what I charge. I'm not scared of anybody trying to undercut me or anything like that. So full disclosure here, this is it. For content that I'm familiar with, 1 hour is $1,200. And I'll be honest with you, that's actually pretty low in the industry. You can charge more than that and still get away with it. Like I said, I'm a one-man show here, so not a lot involved. 1 hour that I'm not familiar with, okay, that is a little bit more than double, $2,500. What is it based on? I'll tell you. An hour of this, somebody comes to me and they say, Ken, I need 1 hour of Microsoft Word, or I need 2 hours of Microsoft Word. In order for me to create that 1 hour of training, I'm allotting myself 16 hours. Now, this 16 hours, this includes, and I'll tell you the whole process here. We're going to look at workflow in just a minute. This includes managing the project, and it includes actually creating the content, which the creating the content part, you have to take this into consideration. This is one of the things people miss a lot. To create 1 hour of video, you've got to put yourself together, the script or the outline. You're going to sit down and record. You're going to make mistakes. And that means that 1 hour, if you do actually sit down and say, I'm going to record an hour's worth of content, it's going to take you between an hour and a half and 2 hours of actual recording to get that. Because when you do a presentation or when you do a training, sometimes you lose your train of thought. You have to pause and kind of regroup. Sometimes you mess up in things that you say and you have to repeat yourself. And this takes a lot of talent and skill to pull it off and save yourself time. For example, if you're talking and you make a mistake and you're trying to make a professional production here, then you have to kind of go back and repeat yourself, or you got to do it later on in the edit process. But the point here is there's extra time involved. So then, let's say you record, you're trying to get an hour of training. You're going to record for 2 hours to get that. Then you got to go back and you've got to edit that. That means you've got to listen to a minimum of 2 hours of training. But every time you stop and make an edit, that's another, a block of time that you're eating up. So to edit a 2 hour clip can literally take you 4 hours. So now, let me find a free space to write over here somewhere. So we're creating 1 hour of training. It took 2 hours to actually record it. It's going to take 4 hours to, edit it. We've already got 6 hours involved, and that is strictly recording and editing. This does not take into account what if you do any kind of special effects or create a presentation, something like that. You could easily start racking up an incredible amount of time just to produce this 1 hour of video. Okay, and that, remember, we got to take into account a proposal. We got to take into account communication with the client. A lot of factors that come into play here. So what I don't want you to do is, be surprised and run into this and not have a clue as to what's going on. There's a reason that things cost what they do, and that's because of the time that's involved in it. So I don't want you to, see a Photoshop training, and if you know Photoshop, they're asking for a 4-hour course, and you do it for, I just want to make $35 an hour, so I'll do it for $140, no problem. You're naive, and I don't want that to happen. Okay, so that has to do with bidding. A lot of this stuff you're going to, experience is what you're gonna have to experience some things. You're gonna have to make some mistakes and make some corrections. What I'm giving you right now is some helpful information that'll give you a good start, so that you're not, just making a total mess right from the very beginning. Now let's talk about overbooking and overbidding. Overbidding is not dealing with bidding too much as far as cost. It's bidding with too much as far as projects that you're bidding on. You want to be really careful about going out there to, Elance and Rent-A-Coder and bidding on everything. Because here's what happened to me. I've done this several times when I was first starting out. I don't do it so much anymore. When I first started out, I started getting jobs, and I would get every single job that I bid on because I was bidding way too low. Okay, I was bidding very low, and I was having fun. I enjoyed what I was doing, and, so I was like, hey, no problem. But then when I started getting really serious and making a business out of this, then I started bidding on a lot of jobs, and I would get every single job. What do you think happened? I was overbooked. I couldn't get everything done. And then you've got customers that are like, hey, you said it would take 3 days to get this done. Now, I never had to deal with that because I worked 18 hours a day to get them all done. But that is that's very stressful. You don't want to be doing that. So what I would suggest is test the waters first. Try to get your price in the ballpark. And I've given you some things to kind of go off of, but the beauty of this, I'll mention this, the beauty of this is working from home. You're going to set your own, your own rate, and it is not geographically contingent. Let me explain. If I live in Chicago, I have to get paid Chicago rates, and I've got Chicago expenses. Well, if I live in Ohio, as I do, and I work on the computer online, I can get paid Chicago or New York or Los Angeles rates and still have Ohio expenses. And that's why I live here. I love it. I can get paid just like I was in Los Angeles because let's say I'm contacting a client that they're in Los Angeles. They're used to paying Los Angeles rates. So I'm going to give them the same quality, and I'm going to charge the same rates. I don't change my rates depending on where my client is. I've got clients in Israel. I've got clients in the United Kingdom. I don't adjust my rate depending on where they are. I just set my rate, and that's it. So that was kind of just a little aside there. I wanted to mention a benefit of doing this kind of thing. With overbooking, you will give yourself... Number one, you run the risk of a bad reputation because you don't deliver on time. You're going to stress yourself out. You're going to cause yourself, a lot of problems in your personal life if you have one, which I hope you do. What I would suggest is get your price set first, kind of figure out where you should be, and then go bid on some jobs. You should not get every single job that you bid on. Now, it's good to get most of them. But if you're getting every single job, that's like what I did, there's a reason. It's because you're probably too low. That being said, I try to deliver very good quality no matter what I'm doing. My customers love my work. I could probably charge more, but you're going to get a feel for how much you can actually handle in a day. And that'll give you an idea of how much you can handle in a week. When you go to bid on a job, I don't mind that you bid a little bit more as far as, okay, let me put it this way. Let's say we're going to make things really simple, and obviously the real world is not like this because you're not going to get jobs like this. But let's say there was 5 jobs that you saw on Elance, and all of them wanted a 1-hour training on an application you were familiar with. Let's say that you decide that in a situation like that, you can do 1-hour training in 2 days if it's something that you're familiar with. So given a week's time, you could do, 2.5? If you work some Saturday, you could do 3 trainings. So you could produce in 1 week, you could produce 3 hours of training content. I have no problem with bidding on all 5 of those jobs, because even if I get all 5 of them, it would not be a big deal to tell the other 2 clients, I'm not going to be able to get to you till next week. That would be okay. Now, where it might be a problem is if there were 10 jobs on Elance, all 1-hour trainings, and you go out and you bid on all 10 of those, then you're probably going to run into a little bit of difficulty, because you're going to not only have people that you have to put off till next week, but you'll have people that you have to put off till the week after that. And they might, not want to wait that long. Now, it's okay to talk to them, if something comes up, and tell them my schedule's kind of tight right now. But what most people are going to tell you is, if your schedule's that tight right now, don't bid on the job. I'll get somebody else. So it's okay to overbid, and in fact, you want to a little bit, because, like I said, you're not going to get every single job. If you're doing it right, if your quality and your price is in the right place, then you're not going to get every job. So in fact, that's what you want to do. You want to bid on like maybe 5 jobs if you think you could handle 3. And again, we're talking about the perfect scenario where everything is spelled out in black and white. All the projects are identical. That's not going to be the case. You're going to get a 4-hour course that somebody wants. You're going to get somebody wants a 3-minute video, a promo video. Somebody wants you to read a testimonial, for whatever. If you diversify and you do a lot of these different things. So a lot of factors play into this. The point is, though, that you take in account what you can handle and overbid just a little bit for the ones that you don't get. That way you can kind of fill your schedule up. That being said, let me tell you a little bit about this industry. Like I said before, I really don't go to Elance or Rent-A-Coder or Guru that much anymore. I might go there on occasion just to, grab something to fill some time. Or maybe I'm looking to get a new client or something like that. But most of the people in this industry, and I'm not going to say it's all of them, most of the people would like their stuff done very quickly. I've got a very good client that will literally, they hired me, this is just a recent thing, as a matter of fact, they hired me to they have a book, and they had me turn that book into a video training. Well, most people that are looking, if you're talking about internet marketers, they want stuff like yesterday, and they want you to drop everything and do it now. A lot of times I do that for clients, especially really good clients. But this particular person was like, yeah, whenever you get to it. I mean, he paid me and everything. He paid me for an hour of content. It's actually going to be probably 20 hours when we're all done, but he paid me for an hour of content, and I kind of casually just did it. I kind of fit it in between other jobs, but he was totally okay with that because he's not in a hurry. That's a rarity. So I just wanted to tell you that. That's a rarity. Most people are going to want things done. And if you go to Elance, you go to Rent-A-Coder, if you look in there, they have a little section on the proposal where they tell you the time frame for the job. And a lot of times you're going to see like 1 day, 3 days. Those are pretty common. And even though I don't go to, Elance very much anymore, my existing clientele, a lot of times they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, I got a project for you. And I got to tell them, okay, that looks great. I'll go ahead and I'll give them a proposal. When I give them the proposal, I let them know, I'm backlogged right now a week, or I won't be able to get to this for 3 days. And most of them don't have a problem with that. Some of them, maybe sometimes they'll tell me, I really bad need this in the next couple of days. And, I try to take care of my clients. So I'll try to do it for them if I possibly can. Let me tell you another thing I haven't mentioned yet. Typical in this industry, this is not the case on Elance or, those kinds of sites like that. There, it works a little bit differently. But typically, when I'll have a lot of new word of mouth customers. Somebody referred me to them. And when they come to me and they say, I've got, this such and such project that I want to do, I'll do the proposal, I'll figure everything out, and when I submit that to them, I'll tell them when I can get to it, I'll tell them how long it's going to take me till it's delivered, and I will tell them they have to give me a 50% deposit in order for me to schedule it. And typically that's not a problem. That's pretty much industry standard in this kind of stuff. So let's say you've got a job, it's going to be, $2,000. They're going to have to give you $1,000 up front because you're both taking a risk, really. If it's somebody that you don't know, you're taking a risk. I have really good customers like Jeremy, for example, and Jeremy will he'll have a great idea for something, and he'll give me an outline, for example, and say, create this. And I don't make Jeremy give me a deposit because, I know his money's good. I've been doing a lot of business with him. But new people especially, you make them give you a deposit because I can't tell you how many times somebody has said, yeah, I heard your name from such and such, and I want a Dynamite product too, a big 4-hour course or a 15-minute promo video. Can you get started on this right away? And then, you turn around, you give them a price, you give them the whole proposal and everything, send it to them. They're like, yeah, good, that's great. Go ahead. I'll send you some money in tomorrow. And you don't hear from them for 2 weeks. Well, don't run the chance of wasting your time and creating that for them, and then, they flake out on you. I have had people, let me tell you about this one. I had somebody that was trying to build a business, and I don't hold this against anybody, okay? They were trying to build up a business, and they wanted Dynamite website work done. They wanted Dynamite videos. And there's a man that I work with that does websites. We kind of refer each other back and forth depending on, what the client wants. And he referred me. So the man's like, this is an emergency. He called me. He's out of the country. This is an emergency. I got to have this weekend. And so, okay, I gave him a price accordingly. He said, okay, no problem. Just get started on it right now. And I said, well, okay, I'm going to send you an invoice for 50%. He's like, yeah, okay, no problem. So because it was such an emergency, and I think this was like Thursday night that I started talking to him, and he wanted it by Saturday. So, and I charged him accordingly, let me tell you. And he was like, yeah, no problem. That's nothing. Well, I sent him the invoice, and I went ahead and started working on it because, he was referred by somebody, an associate of mine, and he sounded real urgent. So I went ahead and started working on it. Spent a lot of time getting everything ready. By Friday afternoon, he had still not sent me a deposit. So I was getting a little bit leery, and I contacted my buddy that referred him that does the websites. He said, yeah, same thing with me. He needed it done emergency and all this, and he's supposed to send me a deposit, but he never came, so I'm not working on it anymore. Well, I was like, okay, me neither. So I stopped. Well, Monday, he contacts me. And he's like, I'm sorry, I had all this problem and this kind of stuff. And he needed it done. So he went ahead and got me the money. And he got me, I went ahead and delivered the content. I did it all. But it was a little bit difficult. He gave me a 50% deposit. And I gave him the video. The balance to that, I didn't get for a month. Okay? The reason was he had a lot of excuses. I don't know. They might all have been legitimate things, but probably more than likely what the deal was is he didn't have the money. He wanted to build a business. He wanted to do it right by getting a good website up, a catchy video, all that kind of stuff, but he didn't have the money to do it. He was wanting to launch and try to generate some revenue. So anyhow, another thing that makes me think of that I'll mention to you, when you're doing video like this, a good thing to do, especially if it's a new client, is don't deliver the final without a watermark until you've been paid. So that means you create the video. This is kind of a hassle if it's a long video, but if it's a promo or something, if it's audio, you can do an audio watermark, which is just your company name, real loud comes up every once in a while. What a watermark is I'll go ahead and throw one on the screen right now for you. As a matter of fact, this is a watermark, and you would make that watermark appear throughout the whole video. So if you've got a new client and they want to, they want to see the video before it's approved. So let's say they give you a 50% deposit, then they want to see the video before they approve it and release the funds. No problem. Give them a video that's watermarked with your company name. or it has some copyright information or something on it. And then the deal is, if they like it, then they pay the balance, and then you submit the final that does not have the watermark. So they know that you did the work. Obviously, you're going to give it to them. So anyhow, just a way to protect yourself if you're working off of Elance and Rent-A-Coder, and no doubt you will be eventually. Let's go ahead and real quick, we're going to go through the workflow process. And now this is going to be kind of daunting to you. You didn't know there was this much work involved in just, a project, a simple project. There's actually more than this. Inside of each one of these little blocks here, there can be an enormous amount of communication or work on your part. So, from the very beginning, let's say you're going to go to Elance and you're going to look for a project to work on. That involves searching for your keywords, maybe doing browsing and stuff. This is going to take up some of your time. All of this right here, this is the things that you have to take into consideration when you're going to do your bidding and you're going to do your scheduling and everything. This is stuff that's involved in that project. So there's much more than just sit down and make a video. So you do it, you find something, and then you possibly, when you find a project, you possibly will have to do some research. Maybe a lot of times what I get is they post a job that they've got and they say, we want something like this. And they give some references. They show you some videos, or they have you look at a script, or they have you look at some online reference or something that you can check out. So there's time involved in doing this research. Then you're going to figure out, what's it going to take, how long is it going to take you, what's going to be all involved, and you're going to submit a proposal. So you figure out what the proposal should be, and then you've got to go there and actually submit it. Then you're going to have some communication with the prospective client back and forth. They're going to ask you questions. You're going to answer them, possibly ask them some more questions, might have to do modifications, might have to modify your bid. You might submit something and they tell you, your work is great. We don't think it's going to be quite as involved in this. Let's scratch this aspect of it, that aspect of it, and get us a little bit lower price with, taking off some of the other stuff that you've got on here. So you might have to rework that. Then let's say that you're awarded the job. Then you might have to do some research once you get to that point to actually get things put together, figure out what you're going to, be a little bit more detail about what you're going to be creating. Then you've got to put together possibly a script and an outline. They might submit this to you, but you're going to have to review it, go over it, make sure that everything is going to flow. You might even have to actually walk through the whole thing one time before you actually record. Okay, so a lot involved right here. A lot of things that you have to take into consideration when you're figuring out your scheduling and what you're going to bid. Then you go ahead and you get approval on the script or the outline. When we say script or outline, script is more like they actually, you might actually write out or type out what you're going to say. An outline is more like a table of contents. So it kind of depends on the delivery style. If you're doing very corporate, then you probably want to have a script. If you're doing a little bit more personal, like this video is, this is more done with an outline. So I've got an outline of the topics that I want to talk about, and then I just talk about those. That's more like what you would see maybe if you went to a live seminar, for example. So then you get the approval for that. Now we've got to actually produce it. So look, producing it is a little past halfway in the whole process. And this part right here is going to take up a ton of time, depending on what the project is. If it's a promo video, this alone, if it's let's say it's a 60-second promo video, this could take you an entire day to get that together. Okay, so you've got to produce it. You've got to do your recording, your editing, any kind of effects that you're doing, any kind of production work, mixing in music, all kinds of stuff happens right here. And then you're going to deliver. That means you're going to encode it in whatever format that they have requested, and you're going to deliver it either maybe on a CD or a thumb drive, or you're going to FTP it to them, whatever you have arranged in that. And then after it's delivered, really, All right, this is our final video. This is where you're going to get to see kind of the workflow. I mean, not in explicit detail. We're just going to do some screenshots so you can see what's going on through the process of me working. More importantly, I'm going to talk about some niches that are available for you in the media marketing business, and we're going to look at some resources. And let me tell you, from experience, what I'm about to tell you in this one video, which is not going to be incredibly long, but what I'm about to tell you here is worth whatever you had to pay in order to get this training. I'm serious, okay, because of what I went through when I first started out with this. So here's what we're going to deal with. This is kind of an overview. We're going to do submitting a proposal. We're going to talk about some of the niches that are available. Video casts where you basically have a video that plays, and it's pretty straightforward. That also includes webinars, stuff like that. And then podcasting. Podcasting's still very popular today. This is something that you can get into. We're going to talk about specifics, about what the options are later on, but this is just kind of an overview. Training, promos, audiobooks, tons of different things that we could be doing in the media marketing business. You can diversify and do a little bit of everything. You can focus on something and specialize. I'm also going to show you some resources, video converters, royalty-free music. We're going to talk about what that is, why you need it, and also some application training. So first off, we're going to do the bidding, the proposal process. You'll remember that we had that one job we found at Elance that looked like a pretty good job, pretty good project, had a lot of things going for it as far as they obviously knew that it was going to be expensive, and they outlined what they needed. Going to be a lot of stuff going on here. Here is the way that I approach something like that. I introduce myself. I actually did submit this. I just did it yesterday, so I haven't got a response or anything from it, but this is the way I do things. I introduce myself. I tell them why, I tell them about my studio. I tell them what I do. I tell them about experience maybe that I have specifically catering to their project. And then I give them a time frame. In this particular case, I'm kind of busy right now. So I told them that I can start in 2 weeks after they award the project, and that it'll take 2 weeks to complete. And then I give them some samples, something that would be pertinent to their project. Don't just give them samples that, just because they're nice looking samples. Make them something that is pertinent to the project. And then I give them some contact information. And remember what I said? Make it easy for them to contact you. IM, email, phone number, everything. Let them know that you're available, and you can even put in there if you want that, I respond to emails like within 2 hours or something like that. Now, here's something that I wanted to show you that pertains to a specific project. I got notified from a buddy of mine about that he referred me. Again, this is the graphics man that I work with, but he notified that he referred me to a client. And so the client contacted me. That notification occurred here. The actual client contacted me the next day. And this right here is the email dialogue that took place and we're not going to go through every one of these, but I just want you to see, what's involved in this between the time that and this isn't something that I got on Elance. This is something that somebody, they referred me to. This is everything that took place between the beginning and working all the details out, submitting a proposal to them, getting scripts approved. This is for 3 small videos. Okay. And every one of these, he would do the script, and then he would watch the video that I gave him. And then this last one, and this is long done, but this is the last email that I saved. He says, we have to remove one thing at the end of the video. I'll call you about it. And then that was it. So there was one little thing that was at the end of the video that he wanted changed. And again, those are things that you have to take into account that you might possibly have to do. So that's it. This is the process. And now you can see that it's not just, give me a 3-minute promo video. June 22nd, June 23rd, all the way through here to July 12th. And then it was delivered, I believe, the next day, and they paid for it. That's for 3 small, let's see, the length on those, I believe we're looking at 90 seconds. 3 small 90-second videos. Okay, just so you got kind of an idea. This is me actually working on that very project. This is one of those videos. This is a screenshot of Sony Vegas Pro. And what I want to just kind of illustrate here is what's involved in creating something like this. And again, we're looking at a 90-second video. It looks like it's a little bit over that. We're looking at 1 minute and 44 seconds right here. It's a little bit over that. Most of the videos, the other 2 videos were right at 90 seconds, but this one was a little bit longer. I've got a music bed, and a bed is terminology in this industry for just a background. So I've got a music bed going on right here on one track, and then underneath it I've got my narration part. This is where I'm talking. That's done on a separate track, and this way you can control it independently. You can make edits to it, you can adjust the volume, stuff like this. And I just kind of want you to see what a video editor, if you're not familiar with that, what it is really used for. And then I've got some other audio here, and these are sounds, different kinds of sounds, effects. Both of these tracks right here. This is one that's all by itself, probably because of the volume that I had it set to, but these are different elements, each one of these. Just different sounds that occur, transitions and things. And then the rest of these are all video tracks. Now at the very bottom, I've got kind of a background. In this case, I think it's a still image, but you could have like an animated background back there. And then each one of these, depending on what it is and the requirements that I've got for it, it might be on a separate track, or it might be on, it's on like several on the same track. It just depends on the effects that you wanted to happen with in relation to that particular video. Okay, but on most of these, in fact, I would say on all of these, there is a transition that occurs here. So not only do you have to pick out the image that you want, and in some cases create it, a lot of these are created custom for this specific video. Okay, so not only do you have to do that, but then you have to figure out where exactly you're going to put them. You might have to do some stuff with motion, moving them around, animating them, and then you've got transitions also that you have to take into account. So just for a 90-second video, there's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of preparation that has to be done. Okay, I just wanted you to kind of see what's going on there. And this is a shot of the final video on the actual website. This is a landing page right here. This is only part of it, obviously. And then the video is put inside of that. So it kind of, and you notice how I matched up colors and the general theme and things like that. So a lot of planning and stuff that's involved in creating something like that. So now let's talk about niches. There are a ton of niches that you can get into with media marketing. And so you're not going to, it's what you like, or what are you interested in? What would you like to do? It's not going to be that there's, a shortage of work out there and there's going to be too many of you doing it and then it's going to cause problems. No. By all means, it's a booming industry. There's tons of work. I will tell you right now, what is hot is, even in commercials, is people who can deliver content with a natural sounding voice that is very neutral. In other words, it's better if you don't have that real deep, boomy kind of, yeah, I'm a DJ, that kind of voice, because that kind of distracts people. I mean, it's got its place, don't get me wrong, for, like used car sales or stuff like that and other kinds of things. But what a lot of people are liking is something that sounds very pleasant. It's very neutral, and it doesn't overpower the content. That way you can focus on the actual content itself, and the voice isn't distracting. But let's talk about what some of these are. Videocasts, webinars. Videocasts can be as simple as you sharing your desktop and allowing people to view that. Maybe you narrate it, do things like that. This is an industry in and of itself, giving webinars. Even if you can specialize in doing this, even maybe you're not the person that will be presenting the webinar, but you want to provide the facilities, or you want to provide consulting for that kind of thing. And by all means, each one of these, there is room for, maybe you don't want to do it yourself, you want to do consulting, or you like, for example, you want to do audiobooks. You do it for a while, you figure it out, and then you can offer that as a, as a supplemental income, offer consulting on how to do audiobooks. Just for example, podcast, still very popular. A podcast is like a radio program that, I'm telling you this, and probably everybody knows what podcasts are, but I'm going to go over it anyway. It's like a radio program that's on demand. In other words, I might produce a podcast. I can do it whenever I want to. I can do it daily. I can do it weekly on a regular schedule, or I can just do it haphazard. But I produce an audio program and I put it on my server, or I make it available some way to people. And then whenever they want to, they can come listen to it. And they can listen to past episodes. It's great. This is what people want, is to be able to access whatever kind of content they want and whenever they want. Nice thing about podcasts is it leaves a lot of room for independent people to produce something. They don't have to worry about, statistics. They don't have to worry about like a big network company. They're gonna select a program that they want to have on television or on the radio or something. They've got to pay a lot of attention to demographics and who's going to be interested, and is there going to be enough, people interested so that they can get advertisers to help support the show, things like that. Podcasters don't have to worry about that. They just podcast about whatever they want to. Training you can do, by the way. What the reason that I brought this up is because you can approach this from a couple of different ways. You can use podcasting to promote your business. So maybe you've got a different kind of online business. You can get into podcasting and you can use that podcast to promote your business. Another thing you can do with this is contact companies and say, we will podcast for you. You give us content. We're going to put the podcast together. And you produce everything for them. You do the radio, you do the talk, you do, whatever they're wanting to promote their business, perhaps. You create that for them and charge them a fee. Training and tutorials, big time hot. Lots of people doing this. If you know how to use an application, or you know how to learn how to use an application, learn how to use it and do a training for it. Create your own tutorials. That is a great way to do an information product. It's a great way to sell. I have a number of training applications that I sell personally on Excel, on Adobe Audition, Outlook, the Office suite, that kind of stuff, Photoshop even. And that is a great way to create an information product that you, again, get residual income. And it's real easy because it's just downloadable. Promo and viral videos. That is like the Amp Mark one that I was demonstrating to you a little bit ago. A short 90-second video. Could be a 5-second video. 5-minute video. Where it's just like a commercial, like an info commercial maybe, or something that just grabs people's attention. A lot of work that I do is for squeeze pages. Create a snazzy video that grabs people's attention on a squeeze page. So they land there and it catches their eye. People love video. If you put on your website a video and it has that little YouTube thing in the middle of it, that little play button, like 95% of the people that see your site are going to click that button. They want to see, what do you got to show me? They want that. And it's kind of funny because with television, for example, what do people do when a commercial comes on? They ignore it. They get up and they take a break. They go to the bathroom. They fix a sandwich. They might skip the commercial. Okay. But on the internet, we've got a lot of advertising. Okay. But what do people do when they're reading through an article and there's a video box there? They click it. They watch it. They don't know what's going to be on there, but they want to watch it. So it provides an excellent avenue for people to promote their business or to promote their product. Now, the thing is, people need those videos made. They're not going to go to some company, unless they're a huge Fortune 500 company or whatever. They're not going to go to some company and get a $25,000 30-second commercial made to pop on their website. They need somebody like you, somebody like me, who can give them something really good and really fast that they can reach their customers with. Audiobooks. This is another one that's really big hot today. You just are basically going to read. Now, some of this stuff, and as a matter of fact, most of it. I will just warn you right now, it's not all technical. There is a lot of talent and art that is involved in this. You cannot be successful with audiobooks just because you can read and record. You can't. You have to have a little bit of acting in there. You have to be able to sound interested. They don't want people that are going to sound boring. Nobody wants to listen to that. But you can provide this as a service, maybe reading scripts for people, reading books for people, or you can, create your own books and sell the books online. A lot of ways you can approach something like this. You can provide a service doing audio commercials. You don't have to do just video. You can do audio. You can create, you do the recording. You can mix in music. You can mix in sound effects and create a real, radio quality commercial. They play those on the internet all the time, and people will even use them for advertising on regular radio stations. For example, the Google AdWords program offers radio as an avenue to advertise. In that, though, they have a directory of people who provide the service of creating those audio commercials for other people. So you could get listed in a directory like that and, get a ton of business. And also not to mention locally, radio stations might use you locally if you submit to them. It depends. Remember, you can diversify. You can get very specific. It just depends on what you want to get into. I like to do a little bit of everything, really. So most of this I do. But I like to diversify, and I like to get specialized in some things too. I do a lot of training and tutorials. I do a lot of podcasting. Audio testimonials, that's another thing that you can get involved in. That is where maybe somebody emails in a testimonial, but the company would like to have audio on their website. So just like a video testimonial that, you see that a lot, they also have audio testimonials. And again, with that, there's a bit of artistic creativity. You don't just read it like you're reading. You have to deliver it like you're that person delivering it. And there's, again, some artistic ability in that. I would recommend that if you do a lot of speaking, if you do a lot of audio work, audio books, any of that kind of stuff, that you do take some courses on it, because there's some helpful education. It's the voiceover industry. Go to voices.com, voice123.com, and check that out. There's a ton of work out there. Again, anybody can do it. It used to be you had to have those deep pipes. You had to sound like you had a real thick voice. But that's not the requirement today. They have people that their voice just sounds like an average person you'd see at Walmart. The difference is the delivery. You have to be able to present the information. You have to be able to interpret the script and interpret that testimonial, whatever it is, and deliver it in a very convincing way. That's the key. So anybody can do voices. Anybody can do voiceover work nowadays. So here is the dynamite resource list that I promised you. And this really is a fantastic list. This first one, digitaljuice.com. You are going to absolutely love me for telling you about this, because if you didn't know about it, it's going to save you. I mean, you can go from like not much experience to completely professional broadcast very quickly and very inexpensively with that resource. What they provide is industry, like there's industry standards like lower thirds, transitions, things that make you don't really necessarily notice them so much when you're watching a video, but they've got to be there for it to have that professional touch, and they provide that. They also have some royalty-free music. We'll talk about that in a second. They've got sound effects. They've got a ton of stuff, and they've got really good packages. They've almost always got special deals going on, meaning check them out. Don't necessarily go there and buy what you see the first time. I mean, it depends, because you never know when it's going to be on special, but always check their homepage. They have these $9.95 specials where they have something, they'll just take it kind of at random, and they'll say, this might be normally $200. Today, till midnight, you can buy it for $10. I mean, they do that all the time. nchsoftware.com. This is a place that you can go that has a ton of audio and video tools very inexpensively. They've got some video converters. They've got some editing programs there. A lot of stuff for webcams. Very good resource because of the diversity of what they have there and the expense. It's not very expensive. You should, let's see, how does it work with them? If you go there and you sign up to some newsletter or something, then you'll get a discount. So don't just go there and buy the first thing that you see. Again, go there, sign up for their newsletter, and then they're going to give you like a coupon thing where you can buy something like, I don't know, 10 or 20% off, something like that, maybe even 30. Incompetech. This site is phenomenal for royalty-free music. This man, literally, he's a composer. He plays piano. He does a bunch of stuff. And he goes in there and creates new songs and just makes them available to anybody. You can use them in your videos. You can use them in your audio clips. Here's the thing with royalty-free music. Whenever you create something, like whether it's audio or it's video, if you use something that somebody else created, you have to pay them royalties. So let's say, for example, you wanted to have your favorite song playing in the background. You can't legally do that without paying royalties to use it. And if you're going to resell what it is that you're creating, those royalties are going to be pretty steep. So what you have to do is you have to go out and find a company. There's a bunch of them out there that make royalty-free music, and you can buy it, and it's like stock audio. They have a bunch of songs. Usually they have different versions of lengths. Like they might have a full version that's 4 minutes, then they'll have a 2-minute version, a 1 minute, a 30-second, a 15-second just for transitions. But you pay a lot more for, that one CD that has 10 songs. You pay a lot more for that than you would if you went to Walmart and bought a CD that has 20 songs on it. But that's because you get a license to use it and do whatever you want to with it, pretty much in your productions. So you might buy one CD that has 10 songs on it and 5 versions of each song, shorter versions and longer versions. You might pay $150 for that. You might pay $50 for it. Depends on the quality of it. But then you get a license to use it. Well, at Incompetech, he creates that music for you, and he's got a huge library, different styles, genres, and different variations, and he just gives it away. The only thing that you have to do is, if possible, you have to give him credit for it somewhere, and that's no big deal. In your video, if you want to do, scrolling, say narration by blah, 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 graphics by blah, 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 music by Incompetech.com, and that's all you have to put in there. He doesn't require that you pay him anything, and it's royalty free. Net Marketing TV. This is a site that is going to be launched here very soon. As a matter of fact, probably by the time you see this video, the site will be launched. It features application training and internet marketing training. So anything related to the internet, anything related to making